Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to The Loud House, Season 2, Episodes 18 through 20. So yeah, we have 3 more episodes today, and I'm really excited to see where this goes, because this series has just been progressively getting better and better. And yes, in the first season there were good episodes. There were very good episodes. And in the second season so far there have been less than good episodes. But overall, like, the overall quality of the series, the progressions it's making into certain elements of the episodes and how they're run has been just so much better. The fact that we're having episodes that do focus mostly or even completely on characters other than Lincoln, such as the sisters, is important, as I've talked about plenty before. With Lori's episode last time, we've had an episode focusing on Lisa, and we've even had one that focuses mostly on the twins, with Lincoln and Clyde only being a B plot to their A plot. So we're getting more and more of this, and I really appreciate it. I really like it. And I hope that we continue to do so. Now, I do want to mention that I have been spoiled on something that does happen. It happened. I got spoiled on it just recently, so it's not like something that, oh, I knew about this before even starting or anything. No, this I got spoiled on just recently. Apparently, there's a spin-off of The Loud House coming called, I think it's the Casagrandas, and it's a spin-off involving Bobby and Ronnie in their new home in the city, because apparently they moved. They leave the area they're in and move to the city, away from, like, obviously where the Loud family lives. I don't know all the details surrounding it. I don't know why they move. I don't know, I don't know how it affects the relationships between Lincoln and Ronnie, and then Lori and Bobby. I don't know any of the details surrounding it. I just know that it does happen, apparently, and it allows for this spin-off. So I do want to say I do know that happens. I think that happens in Season 3, though. At least that would make the most sense to me. If you know, please do not tell me. I want to see this unfold as it unfolds. Even though I do know this is happening, I'd rather find out, like, the details surrounding it myself. But I did want to be open and honest with you guys that I did find that out. It was completely unintentional. I was just scrolling through Twitter, and I saw a picture of Ronnie and Bobby, and it caught my eye, and I just kind of unintentionally read the accompanying text without really thinking about it, because I thought it was just a Loud House thing. But I read the text. It's like, and it was like, after having moved to the city, they have to learn to live in their new environment or whatever. And it said, like, coming soon, the Casagrandas or whatever. I don't even know if it was, like, an official, like, announcement from, like, the Nickelodeon, or if it was something else that someone specifically posted, or some kind of fan site or fan Twitter account or something. I don't know. Because I saw that, and it's like, I kind of scrolled past quickly after I read that, because it's like, just in case I wanted to avoid anything else. But yeah, it's just like, so I'm going to try to avoid anything else regarding that. So yeah, just do not say anything about, like, the circumstances surrounding what leads to that and everything. Again, I want to find out the details through my viewing. There is something I want to discuss, though, before we get into things. Just as a note, real quickly, because I'm going to probably get into the episode right after to discuss this. I do know nothing about these episodes, so as always, that's the only thing I was spoiled on, outside of things I already knew. But there is one other thing I do want to talk about that's semi-related to this. So, as you know, I posted a video sometime in the recent past talking about how I was going to be bringing certain shows back due to the fact that the entire reason I dropped them was kind of going against my initial statements on dropping shows. Shows like Dofus and whatnot that I dropped mostly because I at the time was just kind of feeling meh on them rather than actually feeling like I didn't want to watch them anymore. I dropped them more for that kind of neutral feeling on the show. I didn't feel like it was living up to expectations or whatnot. And it's more than just Dofus. It's like Oban Star Racers and a few other things as well. And I talked about how I was planning to bring them back, but that I had to find space to bring them back into and everything. And that's kind of where I'm getting at with this. I've been trying to think through how I'm going to work this out, because all of my spots are pretty darn full, and I've got plans for what's going to take over those spots when certain shows end and stuff. So I was thinking, is there some way I could possibly insert this into another day or something? And that was the big question I was facing. And I've come up with two ideas. Two ideas. And it's really the only two things I can think of. I do want to mention it here because it will affect Tuesdays for the Loud House reactions. But it won't change Loud House. Loud House will remain on Tuesdays, but it will be joined by one other thing if I choose to go through with this. It'll either be joined by OKKO or the Mega Stream reactions. What this means is that there would be two reactions on Tuesdays from this point forward instead of one. And the thing is, I'm just not sure which one to put on Tuesdays, because OKKO is currently on Thursdays. If I put that on Tuesdays with Loud House, that basically means Thursdays would just be Mega Stream reactions. And for those who don't know, that means it's just reactions I would be getting back to that were originally suggested for the Mega Stream and stuff, and all future Mega Stream chosen reactions for everyone who has donated and all. So it's basically going on that. I will say, because the Mega Stream reactions and all, it's not actually even just going to be reactions, but anything I do as a reward for donations for the Mega Stream will be in that slot. So I'm not going to be putting it on the channel banner or stuff that shows everything I do, because it'll be changing probably at a pretty less than standard route. I'm not going to I don't know how to put it. It's going to be because one week I might do a movie reaction that's been suggested for the Mega Stream donation rewards and stuff. Next week I might do a review or something. The week after I might start a series, but I might only do that for a few weeks and then switch to a different series and then switch back after a few weeks, or I don't know. The Mega Stream slots is going to be a lot different than a regular slot. It's not going to be just, oh, I'm reacting to a certain series at a time. And I'm thinking that's why I might want to put it on Thursday. Have an entire day just set up for that, and so everyone knows, Thursday is the Mega Stream day. But again, if I do that, I would have to change the channel banner. I'd have to put something in that space that would represent just all Mega Stream stuff. Probably just some kind of background with Mega Stream written on it, or something like that. But then I'd also have to change it anyways, because then Loud House and OKKO would be in the same spot, in both on Tuesdays. So that's where this is kind of, it's starting to, I'm starting to question things and how I'm going to do this. Because the reason I was thinking of this is because it'd just be an easier way to get, some of these shows, get back into them. So I don't have to constantly procrastinate and push them off for other things. The only other option I have is to just try to get to them when I can, put them into a slot when I can. So, for example, like, let's say Dofus, which would probably be the first one I'd go back into. Let's say I have everything set for future reactions for stuff that's coming after all I'm currently reacting to. I'd probably have to wait until after that to put in Dofus. So, like, let's say High Score Girl. High Score Girl's probably going to be the most... it's going to be the series that I'm currently reacting to that I'm probably going to finish the soonest. So once that ends, I already have something planned to take it over. Maybe in that slot after the new show that's going to take over for High Score Girl, I could put Dofus. That kind of thing. Monday and Friday, I don't want to change because those are both poll days. Those are the days that I try to do poll-based reactions. So I don't want to change that if I can. And weekend stuff, I want to remain kind of the same general thing going on with weekends. So I'm just really not sure what to do here. Again, there's really only those three options. Either I do wait and just try to get to the other stuff when I can. And either way, I will be getting to it. Or I have to put it on Tuesdays alongside Loud House, or I have to move things around. If I put it on Tuesdays with Loud House, I won't be changing the banner at all, as I've kind of said. It'll just be an additional thing that you see every Tuesday. And again, it could be so many different things. But also, there is the fact that if I do add in something else for a weekly reaction, it would really make it harder to get to a lot of pre-recording for the weekend. So that's why I'm questioning all this. And I wanted to bring this up because I know Loud House is one of the more popular reactions I'm doing. So I want to hear your thoughts. If you have any thoughts on what I could do for this, please let me know. Right now, honestly, I'm leaning towards wanting to just hold off. Instead of trying to insert something new into the weekly schedule, I'm thinking of just holding off and getting to these shows when a spot opens up, when I have the availability. And it's just like, that might be a bit of a wait. But I think it would honestly just be the most natural way to do it. And I'd get to them, I'd put them in a spot as quickly as I could. At least start doing so. So it's like, it'd be as quick as possible, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know when that would be. We'd have to find out. We'd have to just kind of go with it. So yeah, I did just want to bring this up real quick because it might affect Tuesdays in terms of how things go, as well as just because of how popular this specific reaction series is. I was hoping that you guys would be able to see this a lot easier and be able to give me your thoughts on it. I'm not going to promise anything right now. Honestly, I think that I want to get it figured out by Friday, by the mega stream, for obvious reasons. And, I mean, here's the thing. For other stuff that is requested for donation rewards, outside of, like, series reactions, like movie reactions or reviews or whatever else, those will come separately. Those will just completely come separately. And we'll just get to those, basically, yeah, when we can. And of course, as quick as possible, as soon as we can, but still, when we can, when I can get to recording them and everything. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I again, want to hear your thoughts, so tell me what you think of this in the comments below. And in the meantime, I do want to get to this reaction. We have 3 episodes to get to today. And I'm very behind this week because of all of that stuff I had to record yesterday. Especially the movie reaction just put me really behind. So it's just like I'm behind on pre-recording stuff for this weekend. So I really want to get some stuff done today. So, that being said, let's just get on with the reaction. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this was a mixed set for me. I had some issues with these episodes, but none of them were completely terrible. There were some good aspects to all of them, though one of them admittedly was a lot worse than the others. But let's go in order. So episode 18 was all about food. So Lin Sr., the father of the Loud House, he has this cooking schedule. Because the family has a specific food budget, and because there's, 13 kids, they have to really stick to this very specific food schedule. And Lin Sr. always kind of makes the same things every week. Every Friday, for example, is fish fry, which, that's very typical for a Friday. And every Thursday is goulash. The Loud family, they admit that while their father's not bad, and the food's not bad, they just want something else. They want some diversity in their food. Having the same things every single week, it gets old, and that's understandable. And so they're mostly just trying to get stuff like pizza or takeout or stuff that's a little more interesting for them, stuff they don't get all the time, I guess, which again is fair enough. And they are doing everything they can to sabotage their father in order to make sure that they get that diversity. And when he finds out, they decide, we're gonna try to cook instead. We're gonna give you a day off, and we're gonna try to cook, but it goes poorly. However, they do convince their father to try to diversify things, because honestly, yes, they have a budget, and yes, there's going to be some crossover with food and stuff. You're going to have the same stuff a lot of times, but there's no reason why there couldn't at least be some diversity in there. Even on a budget, it's like, apparently it's a weekly budget, so either Lin Sr. or Rita, one of them gets paid. They probably get paid on a separate week each time, so like maybe Rita gets paid one week, Lin Sr. gets paid the next, and then back and forth and back and forth. So it's like every week they have a specific budget, and they go shopping every week and get more food and stuff like that. There's no reason they couldn't diversify, have different things, as long as they still stay within the budget. So it's just like, yeah. It's something that, honestly, I think that should be done in that kind of situation. Because, again, having the same thing over and over, even if you like that kind of food, like, again, the kids did say that it's, I think it was Lincoln specifically, that their father's not necessarily a bad cook, that the food's not necessarily bad, they just want a little more diversity with it. With this episode, I didn't have too many issues. One notable issue I had was there seemed to be a continuity error within the episode, which is strange. Like, I've seen continuity errors in shows many times, but usually it's between different episodes. I don't usually see continuity errors within a single episode, like calling back to something previously in the episode and getting it wrong or something like that. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but it's very rare. And in this one, it's like, okay, so it's Thursday. He's going to make goulash, but that kind of gets ruined. So it's like, okay, I'm going to make tomorrow's dinner instead. I'm going to make that today instead. And he's like, Frankenbeans. And it's like, that's not what the Friday dinner is. They made a very big point of noting how every week it's the same meal between days. Every Thursday it's always goulash. Every Friday it's always fish fry. Not Frankenbeans. So it's just like, it's a continuity error. And again, there's nothing wrong with Frankenbeans, and at that point, that's something different that they don't have. So I really don't know why the kids were still boycotting that too. So it kind of it messes with the episode a little bit. I do like the idea though of what the episode was about and how it was all resolved in the end, and how the kids realized how much their father does put into all of this. So I do like that. But yeah, that one issue does kind of mess it up a little for me. So episode 19 focused on this class project about raising an egg baby. Basically, the class is split into groups, and each group of 2 has to raise an egg together. They just have to keep it safe, have to keep it from cracking or breaking or whatnot. For, what was it? Was it a day or a week or something like that? And seriously, I mentioned it during the reaction. Did anyone actually do this? Like, I've heard of this, but mostly in TV shows and cartoons and stuff. I've never heard of it actually happening in real life. Did anyone actually do this? Please let me know in the comments if you did, because I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing this in real life. But either way, so instead of partnering with who you'd normally partner with, the teacher is choosing the pairs, because the project is all about learning more about your classmates and learning how to handle things in a mature manner. Lincoln is paired with Ronnie, and the concept of them being paired together is fine, but what happens afterwards honestly irritated the hell out of me. Lincoln, who at this point in the series would be friends with Ronnie, and there's even a very slight romantic interest that has been hinted at. These two should have been able to work well together. Lincoln made some very close-minded assumptions instead, and basically acted like an asshole towards Ronnie the entire episode. He's forcefully keeping the egg baby away from her, avoiding her at all costs. When he does let her have it, he tries to pretend he tries to make this fake to trick her, which, I mean, I know they're kids, but how could she not tell it was a fake? If it was this rubber bouncy ball or whatever, like, you'd be able to tell just from holding it that that's not an egg. 1, the weight would be notably different. 2, the feel would just be very different. But yeah, and then it's like super obvious where it's going to go. She's going to find out, she's going to be upset about it, and she's probably going to end up being actually really good with this kind of thing. And that's exactly what happened. And of course, you know, in the end, Lincoln's going to feel bad about it, and he's going to make it up to her somehow, and that happens. And I've talked before how predictability I don't consider to be a legitimate issue with an episode for the most part, and I stand by that, but there's some times where there's a difference between something being a bit predictable and being so generic and obvious. There is a difference. You can have an episode be very good and enjoyable while still being predictable on where it's going to go. But if an episode is like super generic to a point where it's like you've seen this all before and it doesn't really take any risks or do anything differently, then yeah, it comes across as not just unsurprising, but rather completely a waste of time. This episode would have felt just like a waste of time if it didn't feel so mean-spirited as well, and completely out of left field with the mean-spiritedness. There is no reason Lincoln should have been acting like that with Ronnie. I mean, yes, Ronnie tends to be a bit more on the tough side. That's obvious. We know that. You could consider her a tomboy. You could. But Lincoln has formed this friendship with her. He's formed this bond of trust with her that was completely thrown out the window. His actions here are honestly despicable and completely void of any level of friendship. A friend would never act that way towards another friend. Anyone who would act that way towards someone, they're not real friends. It's so irritating. And most of the episode, it just felt so mean-spirited and hard to watch. I really didn't like this. I really didn't like this. But we do have one more episode to talk about, so I am going to move on. Episode 20. This was probably the best episode. So Lincoln and Clyde are planning to enter a comic book contest for this comic series called Se2, which I guess is their favorite comic. The contest, basically, they enter a comic, they get to meet, if they win, you get to meet the author, and I believe it was like something along the lines of you could have your comic actually, like, legitimately printed, which would be awesome. Like, I mean, I'm not a huge comic reader. I read comics every now and again if it's something I'm interested in, such as the Legend of Korra comics or certain MLP comics, yada yada. But for the most part, I'm not super huge into comics. But hell, if I, like, had any level of talent with being able to write and draw comics and everything, and I had a chance to meet, like, someone big in the comic industry, hell yeah, I would do it. I mean, that would be amazing. But we see in this episode that the principal, who was represented as the villain in the comic, takes the comic book away from Lincoln and Clyde and gives them detention for really random and out there reasons. And when I was watching this, I don't know if you could tell, but I felt a little confused by what was going on. Because, yeah, the principal's shown in the past that he's kind of a bit of a hard ass. But this seemed like really just kind of out there. Like, the reasons he was giving them detention and shit just seemed really out there. And so we have this big thing with all the sisters helping them try to get the comic back, and they succeed. But when they get to the post office, they find out that the principal is there too to submit an entry. And that's when we actually get some character development and backstory for him. We find out that when he was a kid, he was kind of the nerdy, unpopular type of kid. He was just really not... He was kind of... I don't want to say a lone wolf, because that kind of implies like this cool, better-than-you attitude. He was more along the lines of just the outcast. The kind of kid, like I said, who just kind of didn't have much of any friends and was picked on and everything. And we find out that the Ace Savvy comics were kind of his escape, his way to really just be able to get through all the hard times, get through all the bullying, all the loneliness and stuff. And that's actually really cool and relatable. I've had friends growing up, of course. I've had plenty of friends. But I was still kind of a bit of an outcast. When in school specifically, a lot of the times I was picked on. I would always eat lunch alone, for the most part, with a couple exceptions here and there. And it's just like, especially in high school, considering I went to 4 different high schools. I moved around a lot at that point. And so it's like I never really had time to make a lot of friends and just kept kind of being on my own. And so I would retreat into stuff like video games. Or different TV shows and stuff I watched. I would be into like toys and games and even in some cases some comic books and stuff. music, even at that point, I was pretty big into still. And it's just like, I was one of those kids who just didn't really hang out with people a lot. And so I definitely understand this kind of idea. And I know a lot of other people have gone through this too. And so instead of reporting the principal for, honestly, the kind of wrong stuff he did, let's be honest, the stuff he did to them, especially giving them detention for really no reason at all, was wrong. Instead of reporting him, which honestly I feel would have been a bit much, even so, they decide to help him out. They change the ending to their comic, and when they win, they bring him with them to meet the author, which just makes his day. And this kind of reminds me of, honestly, another of my favorite episodes. And this one I wouldn't consider one of my favorites necessarily, but it reminds me of one of my favorites. And that was the first episode we actually saw the parents' faces in, the Christmas episode. The one where where Lincoln and the family reached out to their neighbor after finding out he was lonely and wished he could go back to his family on Christmas. And they decided to have Christmas with him to celebrate. And I believe they even got him tickets to go be able to meet with his family. And it was really sweet and beautiful and well handled. And it kind of reminds me of this. This kind of character who's kind of been a thorn in our characters' sides. Getting this development, getting this great characterization and backstory and just everything to be able to humanize them more. And in the end, it's not going to like change their the dynamic between the characters too much, but there's sort of a better understanding of them that makes them feel more than just the rough and tumble type of adult in these kids' lives. It makes them stand out more, is what I'm saying. It makes them feel like a better, full-fledged character. And that's wonderful, and I love that. I think the big difference, though, is this episode also did have a few moments that were a little over the top and silly. The scene where it was going through all the comic stuff, I felt like it was a little much, with constantly like showing all of their names and everything. I felt like it was a little much. And maybe honestly it's because it reminds me of the Power Ponies episode of MLP, and I hated that episode, to be honest. But maybe it is that, but all in all, I just think that episode, the previous episode of Loud House, I mean, with the Christmas episode, I think that was just overall better in terms of its tight writing and how it handled the development and characterization. Again, not that this was bad, it was just, it felt a little underwhelming in all, and it felt like it was just kind of a little over the top. I just feel like this kind of thing works better if it's kind of a little more reserved and feels a little more meaningful and kind of, what's the way to put it? Just, if it's better when it feels like there was just a lot more care put into it, rather than they were trying to make this more emotional character development story. This episode felt like they were trying to do this, rather than it feeling like just a natural thing, like with the Christmas one. Which is funny because it's like, and I'm talking in terms of its execution, because you would think that the Christmas episode which features a character who's very Scrooge-like, and getting this development and learning more about him to the point where in the end he actually ends up becoming a really nice guy, you would think that would seem almost a little forced. But it didn't. For some reason in its execution, it felt very natural. And this one felt more forced, at least in my opinion. But yeah, overall, these 3 episodes, none of them were really, like, amazing for me. And only episode 19 I would really say, I could really say is bad. But even so, it's not, like, really bad. It's not like it's horrible or one of the worst episodes of the series or anything. It was more just very, very annoying and unenjoyable to watch because of the way Lincoln was acting towards Ronnie. Yeah, overall, these episodes, this wasn't the best set. But that can happen with these kinds of shows. We'll have sets here and there that just won't be as good. Hopefully, the next set is much better, and we start getting into more stuff. But I do want to mention that that one of these episodes, at least, didn't have a major Lincoln focus, and that was episode 18. That one actually focused on pretty much everyone in the family equally, with maybe a slightly higher focus on Lynn Sr., with the story revolving around his, cooking and everything. Lincoln, yes, did start off the story by giving that bit of a monologue and everything, but he really wasn't the focus of the episode. The episode focused kind of on all of the kids. Every single one of them. And I like that. I like that it was this shared focus, and it felt natural in that. It actually didn't feel like it was forcing like all of them to kind of be the focus of it. So I do appreciate that. I will say that right off the bat. Right at the end here, basically. I mean, the other 2 were mostly Lincoln focused, with Clyde having some focus as well. And Ronnie, of course, in episode 19. And I didn't mention here, in episode 19, the one thing I really did like about that episode, Clyde and Penelope are fucking adorable together. Like, no joke, I don't think this Penelope girl has been shown before in the series, but I ship her and Clyde already. I am not even kidding. I ship the fuck out of them. Because seeing them taking care of this egg baby together, these 2 were like a couple. They felt like a legitimate couple. It felt so natural to see them together doing this. And that's insane because, again, I don't think she was shown before this episode. And I definitely don't think if she was, it was anything more than a background role. She definitely didn't have any notable interaction with Clyde. So it's like this kind of just came out of nowhere, but I kind of love it. I kind of love it. But either way, I've talked about this long enough. Tell me in the comments below what you think of these 3 episodes. Did you find as much to dislike about episode 19 as I did? Do you ship Clyde and Penelope? What did you think of the development and characterization we got for the principal in episode 20? And just, what do you think was the best out of these episodes? Do you agree with me that it was episode 20, or do you think maybe episode 18 was the best? Or even, do you think episode 19 was the best? I mean, I'm always welcome for different opinions on all of this. So tell me your thoughts in the comments below on all of that and more, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
And though you've come through many obstacles,